Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Millionaires Are Made, the show where we believe that you can grow and learn to become a millionaire in all six aspects of health. That's right, we share tips on your physical health, intellectual health, social health, spiritual health, mental health, and today we're going to focus on your financial health. Our episode is on how to improve your financial health by buying your first home. So, we brought three awesome guests with three awesome tips on how to buy a home or not buy a home. We'll see how that goes. And improving your financial health. If it's your first time watching Millionaires Are Made, this is the show built on the fundamental belief that every person you meet knows something that you don't, and there's something to be learned from everyone in this big, beautiful world. And in the spirit of authenticity, we don't talk or discuss tips or advice before the show starts. And half the time, I don't even know who's going to be on the show until they enter the green room backstage. So it's awesome to keep them and their authenticity for their life journey and give us some information on how they got things done. Audience, we love your interaction. Please comment, ask questions. We absolutely will answer them live on air in front of all of our guests. Want to give a shout out to some of our followers. On Facebook, we have Sam Golgoon. You're awesome. Thank you so much. Instagram, we have Magic Mirror. TikTok, David Arante. And on YouTube, we have Esoteric Trips. Thank you guys so much for following. We love it so much. If you would like to be a guest, we would love to have you. As we said, we believe everyone has something they can share with this whole big world. So please, we're dropping the link right now. Sign up, be a guest, come share some of your knowledge with the world and make it help us all grow just a little bit more. If there's something in your life that you're going through, maybe there's a brick wall or a tough point and you can't quite get past it. Maybe it's your spiritual health. You're feeling a little lost. Maybe you're broke with your financial health, or maybe your physical health. You can't get past a certain point. Let us know. Give us a topic. We will go out and find three awesome guests from three different walks of life, and we'll bring an entire show just to solve your problem. For topic ideas, the link's being dropped, www.millionairesaremade.com, or send us a DM on whatever medium you're watching this. And if you like what we do, sharing knowledge of the world and helping everyone grow, always please like, heart, share, comment, subscribe on YouTube or Twitch, send stars, whatever it is, show us some love so we can keep doing this. And if you like all the information here, I also like to do more freebies and give away a free coaching to everyone. That link's being dropped right now as well, growwithaustin.com. One-on-one, I spend my entire life learning and growing, and I like to give back to others. So if you want to sit on one-on-one and see what I have to say, maybe I can help you out with a little problem. Sign up today. And that brings us to our final little bit before we really start the show. And that is our sponsor. Today we have InstaFarm. It's an at-home grow where you can get microgreens grown in 7 days, fully automated. All you have to do is fill that water up. It's so simple and beautiful. Link is being dropped right now. I think they have free shipping. Check them out, InstaFarm. They're awesome. And we're going to bring on our first guest here. Her name is Alex, and she's going to give us a little tip on how to improve your financial health by buying your first house. What's up, Alex? Tell us who you are.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. My name's Alexandra Ehrlich, and I am your ally in mastering strategies for conquering the credit game. And a little bit about myself. I started in the subprime mortgage world, so anything real estate and home ownership is right up my alley.
Gross. Subprimes. All right.
Oh, yeah.
So, in case you weren't aware of the home buying process, at least in the US and most of the modernized countries, it takes a big loan. The government or someone else, a private company, will give you money to buy the house. And in order to do that, you have to have what we call in the US credit. And so Alex is really good. It's basically a measurement of how likely you are to pay that loan back. All right, Alex, if I wanted to improve my financial health by buying my first house, health and house, tough to say the same sentence, what piece of advice would you give me?
If you wanted to improve your financial health by buying a home or any real estate, the advice I would give you is don't wait. There's never a good time, there's never a bad time. don't wait. If you have an opportunity, just go all in. Don't overanalyze it and realize that no matter what you do, when it comes to real estate, you're going to have an exit strategy already built in. So it's totally safe and okay to just dive in.
Don't wait. So I shouldn't wait for interest rates to go down or the market to
No,
go down.
nope.
Tell me why.
And I think that there's a couple different pieces to that answer. First and foremost, though, is nothing has to be permanent. Just because it's your first home, and especially if it's your first home, doesn't mean it has to be your forever after home. It can become an investment property, it can get sold. You can always upgrade, you can always renovate, you can do so many things when you have that ownership status. So, therefore, waiting doesn't benefit anything. As well, it's an appreciating asset. There's so many factors when we look at what is life going to throw our way. Having a sense of stability and having an appreciating asset is never going to be a bad call.
Yeah, that's huge. Appreciating assets are real good rather than cars or clothes that definitely almost always never go up. Alex, where on your life journey did you learn this information?
Trial and error, but also being in the industry. I think that I have fallen on my face so many times as it comes to real estate, and like that whole hindsight's 2020. I know
Yeah.
that if I had if I had gone ahead and pulled the trigger on so many different properties that I had had an opportunity with, and also the fact that I have pulled the trigger as often as I have, has really created not only the generational wealth that I plan on leaving my children at some point, but also the complete level of abundance and opportunity for everything else. I wouldn't have the leverage to be self employed. I wouldn't have the leverage to make my own schedule. All of that comes from real estate.
All right, real estate. I love it. All right, Alex, we're going to bring you back out, but we're going to move on to Sam, our next guest here. Oh, Sam, who are you, Sam?
Austin, what's up, pal? Did you really put that on there? Nice. I'm Sam Smith, known as the small business surgeon, and I specialize in helping entrepreneurs and small business owners to enhance business operations, man. But I like your description best, the world's second greatest lover. Who wrote
I'll
that?
be honest, I don't touch those. That's all. That might have been a little touch of Nina, or maybe my team's just having fun with you. Either way, I love
I
it.
hope so. That was fun. That made me laugh quite a bit. But yes, I am the small business surgeon. I cut open businesses and put them back together again.
Cut them open, put them back together. All right, so
Mhm.
that's who you are. Sam, if I wanted to improve my financial health by buying my first house, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
I would say, what is the difference between a house and a home? And do I want to buy a place to live, or do I want to buy a place to build a future financial freedom? Because they're two very separate things. I mean, if you want a picket fence, dogs in the yard, and a swing in the tree, that's a whole different strategy and honestly, different financial plan from actually just buying a place to shelter you to make money. So, like this, it depends what you want, man. If you want a home, don't view your home as your major financial vessel. Don't view it as a financial asset. View it as your home. It's your place to live. You're not flipping this to make money. But if you're doing it from a financial perspective, then don't get attached to the place, right? Let's not look for the dream house. Let's look for the dream house when we're in our 40s. In my 20s, I owned 4 rental houses and still lived in an apartment, right? So there's a lot different ways to do it than just I'm going to buy a home and I'm going to make money on my home. I think that the home should be like the last place you really want to make money, but it's quite all right making money off the place you live. Do you see the difference?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my advice. The number one thing I always tell people when they buy their first home is don't buy it for yourself. Your first home should always be an investment. Once you get your hands
Correct.
in that home and it can cash flow and appreciate, it makes buying more homes Way simpler. I've
Correct. Don't.
actually never lived in a home that I owned. Never lived in a building I owned either. I've
Well
always
done.
rented my personal place, and then I
Hmm.
own. I owned. I don't even know. I've owned probably like 8 different homes in my life, 8 different houses, and never lived in a single one of them. So yeah, I love that.
Hmm.
That's huge. Living in an apartment, renting out 4 houses, and just investing
That's.
it
I
where you
mean,
need to invest it.
yeah, and I'm probably the wrong guy to ask about first time home buying, because I would say, don't buy it. Like, rent it and put your money towards investments, put your money towards cash flowing properties, and then when later on in life, when you want to settle down, sure, buy your primary house and do it like that. But there's ways where you can buy homes and live in them for a couple of years and flip them and get the appreciation tax free. And once you start making a house into a home, it's a lot harder to leave, man. And especially when you're in your 20s and 30s, when you've got that time on your side, if you can be looking at these things as assets, and how do we monetize this as best as we can, and how do we utilize the equity we've got in this asset and go and acquire more assets, and that kind of stuff, as opposed to, like, when I'm home, I don't want to be thinking about flipping my house. I want to be hanging stuff on the walls and playing with the kids and living there. So, like, there's a big difference with where I'm investing and where I'm living.
Yeah, I've never been one to hang things on walls or make anything a home, but I live a super transient lifestyle. I'm already
Yes,
ready to
sir.
move to another island.
No, no, you got that spectacular view back there, man.
Yeah. I don't hang artwork. I just find views and
Yeah,
enjoy them
I,
for a
I
while.
like that. I like that.
All right, Sam, where on your life journey did you learn this information?
Along the way, pal. I bought my first house with no money down in 2004. Um, it was a 6-month balloon note. The owner had inherited it, and I found it by driving around and looking at yards, and this yard was all overgrown and all that stuff. So, in having houses that I owned and, like, living in an apartment still, I learned from books, man, and then I learned from experience, and then I learned from hard knocks. And it's like you go through a few recessions, and you're like, wow, maybe I should be just a little bit more careful with my stash. So it wasn't like this great aha moment. It was, again, 20 years of getting beat up, and then realizing that, hey, there are rules to this game, and if you play the game by the rules, it's very difficult not to win. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We are going to move on to our third guest, and we'll bring you back out a little bit later, Sam. And next up, we have Misty. Misty, who are you?
I well, I am actually not into finance business. Although when I created my personal brand, I'm going money and sex, money and sex. What's it going to be about? And so I
All
wrote.
right.
I've been a fitness coach since I was 19 years old. I'm 41 now, so for 22 years, and I just am into health. Period. And finances are a huge topic because stress is a huge topic in health. So
Ooh, I like how you tie that in. All right.
right. It really does. And even as a coach, like you hear people talk about their money all the time. And so it's like money for me is so fun, and it's something that is somewhat is I mean really it's controllable. Like the decisions that you make, right? Like you can make decisions with your money. And so I love talking about money. I am financially free. So I'm the one who, and a lot of people disagree with, but you have to know like how you are emotionally with money. So I know that, it might not be smart for me to pay my house off, but from a security perspective, I love having my house paid off. I love
Okay.
owning my
Yeah.
home, and like nobody could take that away from me. And when I first bought, and it is a home, I have 3 kids, so it's in like cute neighborhood and all that. And but when I first bought the home, I kept hearing this like, oh, don't worry, just get a house. Like this is your starter home. Well, you know what? Like all these, I bought it in 2008. I'm still, people will say, you still in that little house? And I'm like, yeah, I'm still in that little house. And I only had 10% down, but I don't know if it works the same everywhere. I don't know finances like that as far as real estate. But I remember they said all you need is 10% down. But I don't like paying extra for something. If my realtor would have told me, if you have 20% down, you don't have to have this PMI, the private mortgage insurance, I would have gone to work more and just save 20% and put it down. So that's what I know. Like when I buy a home again, I'm going to have my 20% down, right? I don't own a lot of real estate. I only own my home. But I will tell you that part, that 20% down for me is huge, just for me emotionally. And again, I realize it's not always the smartest things for some investing purposes. And then for me also, like, just buy your dream home. Like,
All
don't
right.
wait. Yeah, like if you're somebody, and that all comes, that is your next question, but that comes from me, like being a minimalist and not wanting to spend my time with my stuff. So like for me to move my home and my kids, like that's just more hours where I can't do the things that I enjoy that are fun for me. So I'm just in that house, but it's not necessarily like my favorite house. But the time for me, my time, I would rather be doing other things. I'd rather be dancing or playing with my kids than like moving our home. It sounds stressful. So anyway, it's a different perspective, and I know it's a lot different from you guys, but I do love the money topic, and I love it because being financially free helps me be healthier, and like I said, like not stressed out and not
So
know
if,
anybody.
so if I wanted to improve my financial health by buying my first home, what tip would you give me?
Yeah, for the financial health, my main tip was to have that 20% down. Like the more
20%.
down, like avoid all those extra insurances and the things that are going to be added. Just go bust your butt and just get your down payment.
Awesome. Anything else you want to tell us about how you got that tip and your journey of figuring that out?
Yeah, like I said, I don't like to pay extra for things. So like I buy cars cash. I don't like to, I don't want to pay extra. I don't want to do that insurance. Like I'll go to work and I'll make the money and I'll pay for it. And that also, like, doing things that way inspires me to go to work, or else you don't really have a reason if you don't want things, right? If you don't need them. So I usually need a reason to go to work to work harder. So yeah, the 20% down and just buy the home that you want. Like I remember there was a house that was just $15,000 more, but it was like the top of my budget, and I was concerned. And I was 24 years old. I'm like, you know what, Misty? Like I should have just been more confident and said, you can afford, and I could afford that as long as you're putting money in retirement. You're saving other ways for your future. You're diversifying, then go ahead and spend the $15,000 more. Because if you're like me and you end up there, over a decade later, you might wish that you bought the nicer house.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to bring everyone out and do a round robin here and start talking about each other's tips. So we'll bring Alex and Sam out. Alex, do you real quickly want to refresh what your tip was for us?
Don't wait. Jump in head
Don't
first
wait.
every time.
Sam, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, there's no better time to buy real estate than right now. That's just proven, man. Especially as you get older, with hindsight, like, yeah, don't wait. Like, jump in the market. It doesn't matter what the rates are, because again, if you hold the house 3, 4, 5 years, chances are the house is going to appreciate and the rates are going to change anyway. So, really, historically, the best time to buy real estate is as quickly as you can.
Misty, what are your thoughts on Alex's tip?
We're all like, I listen to a lot of finance stuff, and we're conditioned by our experiences, like our families, our parents, our grandparents' experiences. And my grandparents grew up in or they were alive during the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally bought my house in the end of July in 2008. It was awful. It was like 3 months later, my friends, we were all buying houses, and they were getting 5 times as much house for what I paid for mine. And mine was like 70 grand less than what I paid for it. It was terrible. So I was pretty scarred during that time. And I will say that it's a good over 100 grand more now, over time. But if I knew anything, I knew nothing at the time. Like I literally had some guy who was a realtor, and he could have just told me, like, this is not, it wasn't a great time to buy. And everybody, it wasn't, and part of it is like the luck. But I wish I had taken a fat vacation and just waited and spent that money on a vacation and got a bigger house, because my friends' houses were newer and bigger. And it was only a couple months later. So I don't know. That's finances, like we're conditioned by a lot of our experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, do you quickly want to
Yes.
refresh what your tip was for us?
Yeah, like, so if you've got to decide if you want to like have a home that you're going to live in and stay in long term, like 10, 15, 20 years. This is where we're settling. This is where we're raising the kids. Or you've got to decide if it's going to be an investment. And, if I'm in my 20s or 30s, I'm not necessarily worried about like buying a house for the future, because how quickly the future can change. And so my tip would be to find yourself inside of a multifamily situation and living in one room and leasing out as many rooms or leasing out as many of the other apartments as possible. And like, especially like if you're younger, like don't worry about the picket fence and the pets in the yard. Like look at your money and say, right. And I know kids in their 20s, 22, 23 years old that will buy a house, a 5-bedroom house, and they rent 4 bedrooms out to their mates. And, it's a party house and they all live there. But by the time the kid's finished college and done his postgrad, he's got half of his house paid for, and he's got a place to live. So like, don't get caught up in the idea of it being the perfect home. Like look at it from your money situation and say, what's my money going to look like 3 years from now or 5 years from now if I do this deal? Like use the spreadsheet and don't buy based on emotions.
That's a lot of how I got into real estate. Was when I was young, we'd have 4 or 5 bedroom houses to make it cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And then every time a roommate would move out, I would raise the price for that room. I mean, obviously it'd be like 6 months or a year. So inflation or whatever, it would get more expensive normally anyways. But then eventually I was living for free and I just had the master lease and just lease it back out. And then eventually you no longer have a cost of living. And then when you buy houses, you start making money off them. But that was the first thing I did. I mean, what they call it, kind of like house hacking. But you rent a 5-bedroom. If you have enough money to cover that master lease, you kind of control it, and then you can sublease it for more money and live for free. When you're at a really young.
I mean, it's a young guy's game. I mean, when my first wife, when we were first married, we bought a 3-bedroom house that we couldn't afford, and we leased the other 2 bedrooms out. But 3 years of that, and we were ready to live by ourselves. So, like, I'm not saying it's.
Yeah. I want to play devil's advocate and say that it doesn't have to be about having roommates. I've only had a roommate one time in my life, other than my ex-husband, which might as well have been a roommate, but that's a whole nother story. Like, I am not a fan of sharing my space. I'm not a fan of putting my children in that position. And here's the thing. I've still been able to house hack, so to speak. I have never left a dime of equity in any of the properties I've lived in. I've had no problem moving, upgrading. I live in a very great neighborhood in all the house, everything that I could have wanted. But every year I'm refinancing, pulling cash out, leveraging that for other things. And like, I'm unfortunately the opposite of you, Misty, on like, I believe in having the highest mortgage I can humanly possibly afford at all times on as many properties as I can possibly afford at all times, so that those funds are working for me, because now I'm getting tax deductions. Now I'm able to leverage that into other plays.
All right. We have a question from the audience, and we kind of talked about it, but it'd be fun to hear your thoughts. Is it risky to buy a home in the current market?
Okay. So the answer to this question is always based around the timeline. That's it. There's no risk on a 10-year timeline. There could be a lot of risk on an 18-month delta, like a lot of risk right now, especially when
location. I think we have to factor location and how are we doing it. If you're buying a house, hard money, 0 down, but it happens to be needing a little bit of sweat equity or is a little outdated, you're buying the biggest home in the nicest subdivision, but in the worst shape, and you're in a position to put some sweat equity into it, or maybe you're getting it as an estate sale. There's ways of hedging your bets and always being safe.
Yes, correct. Sorry, I thought this was beginner level stuff. Like just walking out and buying a house tomorrow, is it a good time? Like, yeah, if you want to, there's never a bad time to flip a house. that's all a spreadsheet. Yeah, that's all a number. But like my statement, I guess, was more generic. Like if the risk in the market is based like on, can I zoom out to 10 years and look at this? Because like when Misty bought her house 3 months before a market crash and it all went underwater, like on a 6 or a 12-month delta, that's a really, really bad day. But over 10 years, well, not so bad. And she got to live in the house for 10 years, so I just I don't think that there's a bad time to buy real estate if you zoom the timeline out far enough.
Yeah, if you zoom it out, I would argue though, I mean, if you're just trying to buy a house to get done renting and you're just, most people are not investors. We have, three investors
Right.
on here. But if you're just buying a house to live in for the next 20, 30 years, then if you're not buying it to, I guess, generate wealth, then that's the interest rate's going to be a big factor because over 10 years, yeah, sure, you're going to have equity. You can pull it out, buy more houses. That's for an investor.
Right.
If you're just looking for something to live in, maybe it's your newlyweds or something like that, just looking for a house. I mean, your mortgage payment going down $200 a month might actually be significant to you. So
Oh
then,
yeah, 100%, yeah.
waiting 6 months for interest rates to go down might actually be the right play. There's a lot of math involved with that, depending on what you want. But I can definitely see it's not for me. I don't even live in the houses I buy. But
Yeah.
there's definitely people that if you just got married, you're like ready to go get into a house. I mean, you're just like, we're just going to pay that mortgage and live in the house, and we're going to keep doing whatever else. We're just buying a house to live in for stability in our life. Then I definitely can see you guys having to wait. I mean, I would say right now, I think interest rates are going to go down a little bit farther, but it's going to be super interesting to see who gets elected and what happens at that point. And
Yeah.
it could be bad.
But there's also
worse,
no harm in refinancing. Like there's nothing stopping you from refinancing literally as often as you want. If you know that that's the play, there's ways of structuring that, even like truly not from an investment standpoint, just from a first home. I'm going to live in it. I'm going to do the traditional old school home ownership. If you're spending money on rent and you can find a property that you can live with, it doesn't have to be your dream home, but it's something you can totally live with for lateral funds that you're spending on rent. Why wouldn't you do it? Then what you choose to do with that property, you can 100% diversify. You can rent it out, you can sell it, you can flip it, you can renovate it, you can do all kinds of things. But at least you have stability, and at least you have something that is still gaining value, big picture.
Yeah, for people that aren't looking to flip it though or make money on it, I don't know. I could easily see. I hear a lot of arguments of people that are waiting for prices to drop, market to drop, so they can get it a little cheaper. They don't care about the equity or the long term set. They care about what they're going to buy their baby's diapers and lower more monthly rates and stuff.
For that specific demographic, yeah.
Which I think is a large demographic. It's a lot larger than us investors.
But don't you think that? Sorry, Sam.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying for that demographic, like I think that there could be a good reason for them to wait till in the New Year's and in the spring. We're going to see an election. We're going to see some ups and downs in the housing market for sure. We're going to see some corrections. We're going to see some interest rate movement.
I mean, they're talking about taxing, expected gains. I mean, that could be a game changer right there. Your house goes up in value, $100,000, and now you're being taxed on it. That could really screw you over completely if you're a first-time buyer.
Yeah. So
I mean, I guess my question is, for that same demographic, isn't that person just as concerned, just as scared that their rent all of a sudden is going to go up 5%, 10%, 15%, that their property management company is going to change and all of a sudden they're not going to have maintenance? I mean, I can tell you the countless posts I see every single day across multiple platforms talking about, we didn't have hot water for 3 months, and the landlord showed me a clause in my lease that said they didn't have to give it to me. Here in Colorado, we've hit 110, 112 degree days, and people talking about, yeah, my AC was down for over 6 weeks. And guess what? The landlord has a clause that is not a reasonable expectation. I think all of those pieces we have to factor when we talk about what is the point of our shelter, even like that basic fundamental need of shelter, and having control over one thing in our world, even if it is just our shelter, especially as a parent trying to provide diapers and things like that. Perhaps that alleviation of stress, even with the additional stressors it can cause, is more than outweighing any cost of interest or taxes or whatever else.
Potentially, I guess. Every case is definitely its own. Um, I would, for my personal life, it's buy as often as possible, as much as possible. I don't
Yep.
give a fuck about interest rates. I buy at 10%. I buy at 15%. I do not care because all my houses will cash flow. But outside of that, it is what it is. All right, we got some more questions. We got like 2 more questions, and then we got to wrap this up. So we have someone. I am confused. Is it really worth spending your entire life living in a rental house? And that's going to be tough to know the answer to. I would say that's going to, Grant Cardone, one of the richest people in the world, says to rent forever. It's going to be tough. We can give you as much advice as possible, but I think you're going to have to blaze your own path at some point.
Yeah, for sure. It's easy. It's easy to rent. It's easy to move. It's easy to up sticks. And so I advise a hybrid of that. I would definitely spend my 20s renting. I would probably spend my 30s renting. And anything that I bought would be like, for example, like you can get an FHA loan, first time buyer, 3% down on a freaking fourplex, right? So your fourplex is 600 grand. Your house is 400 grand. Well, save a bit more and get the fourplex. You can be into that for 20 grand out of pocket, covered by the FHA, living in one part of it, renting 3 out. That's what I do. And then the minute you can, you rent that other space, you cash out the equity in that fourplex, you go put it on another fourplex. Like, I wouldn't worry if I was in my 20s now. I wouldn't worry about a home at all. I'd be like hacking into fourplexes, and then as soon as I got enough equity built up, I'd be buying an 8, I'd be buying a 16, whatever number of doors I could get. And that's after coming back from alcoholism and divorce and business failure, that's all my money's doing now. I'm saving up down payments, and the minute we've got enough down payment, it'll go to a multifamily, and I'll just keep renting a house, because that's not important. What's the most important is stacking equity into assets.
All right,
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. Any of you guys have a free guide on how to buy a house? I'm sure, Alex, you got to have something, right?
I actually don't. I have a lot of content around it, but
yeah, same.
For me, coming out of the mortgage world, my stuff is more focused. I see another question in the chat on how to get a better interest rate. That's where my focus really
Don't
is.
answer that one yet.
Sorry. I like to joke. Let's go.
So I guess as far as a guide to buy a house, I have in my blog, it's not necessarily a guide, but there's really like 7 ways to buy houses. You could do hard money, you can do cash, you can do owner finance, you can do subject to. There's a lot of different ways, and I've actually probably done a different way on every house that I've bought. I've done FHA, I've done conventional, I've done hard money, I've done owner finance, sub 2. So there's a lot of different ways to buy a house, and it's going to be different on each one.
Dude, I have 3 books on how to do it, 3 different guides that I paid a guide company for in 2018, a huge amount of money. They put my name and my picture on the front cover and made it look like I wrote them, but I didn't. So I built the second largest real estate sales company in my market, and then discovered I didn't like selling homes at all. I much prefer the investment side of things and the spreadsheet side. So
Nice.
I divested myself of that business. But yeah, I've written multiple guides on how to do it, and I'm happy to publish some. They're just a little bit older, so I'd have to go and publish them again in my school group.
Ryuk, go follow Sam and shoot him a message. You can shoot me a message and shoot Alex. Between the 3 of us, we should have a lot of info for you, but I don't know. I mean, it's gonna be tough to do step by step because everyone's, especially in the credit with Alex, if you go through
Yeah,
FHA or you go through a conventional loan, it's gonna
it's all
be
different.
insanely different for everybody.
Mhm.
But I mean,
Or if
there's
you go investor, you can buy your first home DSCR.
Yep.
which I've also done. All
Or
right,
early
one last
retirement.
question, and then we got to do our challenge. And this is going to be, we need a post on that 7 ways. Terrific. I'll get that to you in a second. Just message me. Alex, this one I'm going to probably leave you a little bit on. How do you get lower interest rates outside of, I guess, a higher credit score is an easy way. How else can we do that?
The other ways of looking at that are, again, first off, what are your objectives? Why do we even care about the interest rate? Is the interest rate because we plan on holding on to this same one loan for the 30 years? Guess what? We don't have to. Let's dispel that myth like right now. You do not have to hold this same mortgage any longer than you want to. So if you can afford the monthly payment, and if your cash situation for down payment or whatever else happens to work, I think that the interest rate should be less of the conversation than what we as a society make it out to be these days. I've personally raised my interest rate multiple times to cash out, pay off debt that was at a higher rate where my effective interest rate was lower. So just kind of putting that out there for conversation's sake. But to answer the question directly, we want to optimize our credit to the highest, best use that we possibly can. We also want to look at being in the correct loan product. There's some people that don't claim a lot of income as far as being self-employed. So we have to be realistic about what the product that we're going for our needs is going to be market priced at. The other thing that we can look at is what is the property itself. A condo or an investment is going to have a higher interest rate traditionally than a standard single family home. And then I think the final piece is going to be equity position. So how do we really marry those concepts? Back in the day, and I'm sure it's still relevant, was the 4 C's of lending: credit, collateral, capacity, and help me, what was the fourth one? Credit, collateral, capacity,
Cash flow.
condition or cash?
I don't know.
Cash.
I was guessing.
I think it was cash. Yeah.
Conditions
So
in there
as
too,
long
I
as
think.
we're marrying those 4 C's together, you're going to get the optimal loan, get the optimal interest rate, really just kind of get that icing on the cake.
Awesome. All right, guys. We quickly have to come up with our daily challenge. It is something that we can do every day that takes less than 5 minutes, costs $0, and is available to anyone in the world from Zimbabwe to Kathmandu. This is going to be a tough one to help their financial health on buying a house. What is something you can do to do that?
Connect with a professional.
Mhm.
Whether it's an investor or a realtor or a lender, and learn more about what either their personal experience or philosophy about homeownership is, or about what their services offered are and how they may be applicable to oneself.
So maybe like find somebody in your area or the area you want to buy in, and maybe shoot them an email with like 3 questions. So you could even do like a tax assessor. You could do someone in the government, like a title. You could find a title company, realtor, some real estate professional, and you have to ask them at least 3 questions.
Yeah, I want to like reinforce what Alexandra said there, is that like there are people whose job it is to help you buy houses. And I know there's been a lot of changes with NAR and with buyer representation side of things. So you got to tread carefully with that and make sure, go to a licensed agent, go to a licensed broker, and don't, I hate to shoot down realtors, but not all realtors are the same. Don't use the new guys on this. Don't use your friends on this. Go find the professional one that handles the most transactions. They're going to have a team in place. They're going to have finance people that can help you get your finances sorted out. They're going to have loan people that can help you get your loan rates sorted out. They'll have credit repair guys. Like, go to a top buyer's agent. Don't start out with a new guy, and go to someone that can help you get the answers to your questions, because they're all going to be different in the local market. But it all starts with understanding what you can do in your current situation and understanding the gap between where you are currently and where you want to get to buy the house that you want.
I love it. All right. So for the daily challenge specifically, how do you guys feel about asking 3 questions to a real estate professional?
I think that's a great start.
Yeah. And can we open that up to like anybody in real estate? Because I think that oftentimes we think professional and we think realtor, lender, banker. Mm-hmm. We lose sight of the investors in our area that have already done it themselves, or even our parents that have possibly fumbled or succeeded. I think it can be really anybody who's had experience with a real estate transaction.
I got a good place to look. Go on Facebook and look at local real estate groups and join a local real estate group and go to one of their mixers, meet with them and meet the investors, meet the folks that are doing this, because, you know, oftentimes deals for properties will come along that aren't on the market and they just get passed word of mouth, and they go through these networking groups, they go through these clubs. So if you want to be a part of it, that's a really easy and free way to start, is find a local group.
I agree. Awesome, guys. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much. We got to get to our next. Oh, that was a good one. Lots of information there. Super tough to do. Real quick before we end, do want to give a couple shout outs to some of our sponsors. First off, we have Jen Gray. Jen is host of the Be Genuine with Jen podcast. It's awesome. Go subscribe and listen to it. She's a licensed life and health agent dedicated helping small businesses and entrepreneurs thrive. She's known as the agent with benefits. Go connect with her today. Her link's being dropped right now. Next up, we have Elle Granil, a neuroscience expert, NLP, and communication pro. She offers deep dive into brain function and personal transformation. Super smart. Go check her out. Author, athlete, and founder of True Speak, and she's certified in transformational meditation. Super crazy, the cool, awesome stuff she's doing to help people. Check her out. We've also got Danielle Margroff. She leads the feminine wealth movement, teaching women to rewire their brains for financial freedom using spiritual, somatic, and mindset practices. So if you want to learn how to have better mindset and attitudes, go check out Danielle. And last but not least, we've got Nikki Nicole, Breaking the Silence podcast. You should also listen to that podcast. It was created and founded by author Nikki Nicole. Breaking the Silence aims to shine the light on everyday people and give them a place to tell their stories. And without further ado, hopefully you guys had an awesome time learning. We did a lot about real estate and buying your first home. I hope you all get your first home.